don't get it twisted. His passing is legit. I wish we could have found something that rhymed, but we couldn't. Okay? Oh, yeah, baby, that's right. If you want to know football, you come to Chris Simms Unbuttoned. If you want to know rhymes, don't come here because I don't know what the hell I'm doing, all right? I'm not exactly a high in-demand rapper or lyrical guy at all. But I am here with Ahmed Fareed, who is. He is a good rhymer.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he could rap because he doesn't say swear words or anything controversial, so that's not going to be good in the rap game. Yeah. But damn, he's a good host. And this is Chris Simms Unbuttoned. Ahmed, what's up, man?
I don't like that you made it sound like we tried for a long time to come up with a rhyme and couldn't do it. You go, I wish we could have come up with a rhyme as if we spent 15 to 20 minutes.
And it was just me just doing something stupid right at the start of the show.
But you know who did come up with a rhyme?
What?
Our homies. There are multiple out there on YouTube and Twitter too. We go with Billy Reimer, who goes, "Don't get it twisted. His passing is gifted."
It was really easy.
It was right there.
Billy, I'm stupid. Really. And then Billy Reimer. What an appropriate name.
Oh wow, I didn't even pick up on that.
Wow. Man, Billy does rhymes well.
In his DNA.
Yeah, it is in his DNA. It's exactly
blood.
right. But we have fun here, and we're going to have fun today. Man, we got a good one.
This is it.
This is it.
The end of the line. So, like, you were talking about the other quarterbacks and how you'd walk by your piece of paper and you'd be like, I can't really have him here or there. Like, these top four and where they are.
Right.
Are you pretty settled on that? Did you change your mind at all on these and the positioning of them?
No, I did not change my positioning. From my first film watch to when I wrote it down, this top four stayed the way it did. Now, 2 and 3, and we'll get into that in a minute, it was close. And did I, walk by every now and then and go, ooh, maybe I should switch that? But never did. And felt good about it. And, the thing I love about it is, as you heard me say a little bit before the podcast, because, I spent yesterday watching these guys one more time so I can, maybe find another creative thing to say, right? Something else jumps out at me, right? Just have fresh ideas and thoughts in my head. It's a joy to watch these top four. It really is. I think you can see the excitement about that I have just in getting ready for this episode and this podcast, and these are. I think really all four guys are like Hall of Famers. We're watching a special group here, who, yes, they just need a little help from their team or whoever here, but I don't doubt the guys, the talent, the leaders, the decision makers, anything here. These are four here that I don't see anytime soon them falling too far off of where they are, right? Maybe there's another guy that jumps in at 2 or 3 and someone falls to 5 or whatever. But I think they're here to stay, and I think we should all appreciate it because it's a kind of a special era I think we're in right now with some of these quarterbacks we got at the top of the list.
You would put your money on all four of these guys being in the Hall of Fame at the end of their careers?
I would. They're definitely Hall of Fame talents. There's no doubt about that. Now, we know with quarterback Hall of Fame, hey, it's going to get a little bit into the playoff wins and Super Bowl appearances and some of that. Health, right? And can you continue to put the stats up as you're staying healthy and all that? I get that. But there's no doubt that the potential, the player, everything I see from this group right here, they're all Hall of Fame caliber. And I'm not just talking like, oh, they're in the Hall of Fame, 20 years after they're retired. I'm talking like, when I talk like that, I'm talking about like, no, it's the first year they're eligible in the Hall of Fame and they're voted in. That's what kind of guys I think we're talking about right here.
Won't be the Veterans Committee.
No,
whatever
exactly,
it is in the
right,
NFL.
Right. Or we feel bad we didn't put him in there and he's dead now, so now we're going to put him in committee. Right.
Yeah, you remember this guy?
Yeah.
Let's put him in. All right, so the Final Four. We have reached the Final Four, and to get into it, we got to go with the quarterback song.
You know it. Quarterback list. Quarterback list. Motherfucking top 40 quarterback list. I like it. Got the banjo.
It was the banjo remix. Yeah, what's cool about that, it's the same lyrics every time, right?
Yeah.
But one was the kids' version, that was the banjo version, and he speeds you up a little bit. That's well done, guys.
It shows my versatility right there.
Exactly, yeah. Maybe you are a rapper. You said you weren't at the top of the show, but
I like it, though. I like
my mind.
The banjo touch there, a little different look on that.
So we got 4 quarterbacks. We have 3 tiers.
Yeah.
We break these 4 quarterbacks into 3 tiers. Number 4 is in a tier by himself.
He is in a tier by himself.
And that tier is the machine.
That's right, because he's a freaking machine.
And that number 4 quarterback is?
Justin Herbert, Los Angeles Chargers. That's right. Justin Herbert is just, I mean, he's an amazing player. And I think if we had to make a headline about him, it'd be all-time traits, but still looking for his big moment to jump on the scene, for everybody to buy into, wait, no, this is definitely one of the best quarterbacks in football, right? And, you know, when you talk about him and you start to break him down, I mean, of course, you know me and you've heard me talk about him enough, and there's nothing you can really dissect too greatly here where you'd go, oh, there's an issue with his game or something. These top 4 are pretty flawless across the board. You know, the first thing I would say is he the biggest quarterback in the NFL? He's up there with that, right? You know, maybe the best pocket passing quarterback in the NFL. Probably the most consistent mechanics in the NFL, and then has an all-time arm, like we're saying. He's one of the best in history there in that department. But unfortunately, he's also in an era where it's Mahomes and Josh Allen who have all-time arms.
Don't give away the other quarterbacks in your top 4.
They're just talking about their arms.
Oh, okay.
Their arms are all-time too. And I think that maybe takes away from his luster or the attention he should get in that department. But, man, decision-making, the arm talent, the ability to move and run, which I think is something he can add even more to his football game. The throwing on the run, it's all really special, and that's where I love Justin Herbert.
So why is he a machine? Why do you describe him as a machine? Because that seems like distinct to him. You wouldn't just say every quarterback, even Mahomes, who's going to be talked about on this podcast.
Yeah, right.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
I don't think you'd call him necessarily a machine.
No.
Why is he a machine?
Because Herbert is just, when I look at his mechanics, and we're going to talk about somebody else that's got really good mechanics too, right? And that's the fun thing about doing the top 4, because I go, well, this guy's the best at this, and then I watch the next guy and I go, okay, no, wait, that guy's the second best at this. This guy's better in that department. That's where it's awesome. But I call him the machine because he's always in perfect position, and he's always in the pocket in a good position to throw the football, and his mechanics and his release are always just like perfect. It's perfection. It really is. Everything's always lined up the right way. And not to say he can't do it if it's not lined up the right way, but, that's where he, over and over and over in the pocket, there's never a variance in, his feet are a little cockeyed here or that. He always gets himself in the right position to then, therefore, hit the bullseye. And he's a great, accurate thrower because of that. And you heard me say before the podcast, this is not like, hit the bullseye on some of these. It's like, no, I'm going to hit the right edge of the bullseye type of throwing. And that's where it's really, really special. So, that's where I get into the machine aspect, because you can go through periods of a game and go, perfect throw, perfect mechanics, perfect decision. Perfect throw, perfect mechanics, perfect decision, right? And that's where I got in, and I thought about you with Albert Pujols in this last pass when I was writing these notes.
The machine.
And going, I feel like I'm watching the machine, and I thought about you a few times as I was doing this yesterday.
Yeah, maybe in more ways than one, too, because it kind of seems like that machine quality that he has in his play may be a negative in the way that he is as a leader, and he doesn't quite have that charisma. He is more robot. It does seem like a robot. Like if you were making a video game, you'd have Justin Herbert be your quarterback in the video game. That's the templates, like boom, 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 rifles. Does he have that personality to embody all of his physical talent?
I think that's a real question, right? I think he's a little bit more of like lead by example. He's quiet. He's that guy, right? The team believes in him, but maybe do they believe him in the extent of the guys we're going to talk about here in a minute, where I think they have magical ability in that department? No, I don't think so. I think it's probably a place where he could grow. I think that, plus, he's had some great moments in the NFL, but he hasn't had that moment yet, right, where you go, ooh, they were outplayed, or this is a big game, and they won the game because Herbert did it, right? And we're going to get into the other 3 guys. We're going to go, oh, no, there's moments where I can go, plenty of them, both of them, where I go, they didn't play that well that day. The defense didn't play good. Man, there wasn't a lot on offense that was open and there to be had, but they still found a way to win the game. And I think that's probably part of the reason that's missing from him and his overall ranking and what he is as a player. And, hey, some of that's team-induced, and he needs a little help here and there and all that. But I would also say the 3 guys in front of him, I think, have been in some similar situations where I'd say, no, they won a few more of these games than Justin Herbert has. And I think that's an area area that he certainly could, up himself in a little bit.
You have always been very high on Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
Coming out of the draft, he was number 11 for you in 2021. He was 3 last year. He's in the top 4 once again. But when you look at his numbers, and we don't look at numbers all that often.
Right.
You don't want to be a slave to the stats, but he had a career low in touchdowns last year, yards per completion, yards per game, career low in quarterback rating, career high in time sacked. The numbers took a step back.
Yeah, they did.
Did you see his play take a step back?
I really didn't. I think the offense is the biggest issue as far as what it pertains to the numbers, right? That's the problem. I mean, Ahmed, you and I, how many podcasts did we do last year where we just went, that offense is doing a disservice to Justin Herbert, right? Them running a Drew Brees offense when you got a guy that's got an all-time arm and can make 50-yard throws in his sleep, and we're going, jamming another 4-yard throw there for us. That's where that all went down. And then within that offense, it was a little too basic West Coasty. And you've heard me say this too before. A lot of the defensive coordinators in football, when you're in the basic West Coast stuff, they know the rules as good as the offense does. They know the rules. They know what they're going to do. So that none of that, he didn't have any advantages that way. Mm-hmm. That's what hurt him there. But again, I think when you get into him, like, we talk about the size. Again, he's the ultimate throw over the line of scrimmage guy that you've heard me bring up with a few guys during this process, right? I don't think he gets his credit, because he's a machine and it's always, there's the lack of flair maybe compared to a Mahomes or Allen. He does not get a credit for the amount of unbelievable throws he does make. I gave you an example. People go out and watch. I mean, again, you can turn on any game and see it. But, one of the games I'm watching yesterday is the Kansas City game when they're playing in L.A. I mean, the first throw of the game or one of the first plays of the game, he's got somebody in his face. He's got to step up in the pocket, right? He's got literally somebody in his chest. But he has a guy that's open by half a foot, 28 yards away, running a corner route. And he can't throw the ball in the normal motion, so he has to kind of drop his arm angle just a little bit. And he doesn't even flinch or blink. It's just like, oh, I'm throwing this. He's open. I don't care that my body's in this position or whatever. And it's just right there. I mean, so there's so much of that. And I think with all these guys, we gloss it over a little too much, where you'd go, no, there's 5, 6, 7 throws a game that these guys make that the rest of football can't. And we're just so used to it. We're kind of just like, And, that's where, he's really special. Good athlete. He could scramble more, like I said. I wrote down at first, I think he maybe is the best throwing on the run quarterback, only second to Mahomes, which then is going to be Trump because I watched Josh Allen, and then I went, oh, actually, Josh Allen's better than him too, okay? Yeah. But my point is it's amazing, right? And I think some of the things you talk about, the mystique, the oh my God moments, that's not there with the top 3 guys we're going to talk about yet. And then the other thing is, he does throw sidearm more than you think, right? He can throw off his back foot and do all of that. He doesn't have what I call the hand or the flick ability that the other 3 guys have, right? And
the touch,
right? I just got to get a real quick short release here and just get it up in the air and let my guy run under it. That's where he's definitely behind the other 3. There's a little, as compared, and again, we're being nitpicky with the greats here, but as compared to the other 3 in front of him too, he doesn't have as many clubs in his bag, right? Where there's a few plays in every game where I go, you shouldn't have thrown it like that. His touch ball is like, zhoo, zhoo, right? His laser is zhoo, zhoo, but his touch ball is zhoo. And that's hard.
What would you want it to sound like?
I want it to be like,
yeah.
That's the touch ball, right?
Yeah.
That's the, Mahomes, Allen, I'm on my back foot. I'm going to throw the ball 50 yards down the field, but 50 yards high too, because my guy's at the 20-yard mark right now, and I'm about to get hit or whatever, and I just got to throw it up into an area where I think he'll be, and boom, it'll drop in there. And that's where he does not have the same ability they do in that, or like a deep post every now and then, where I go, man, you can't throw a 50-yard deep post 7 yards off the ground and think you're going to be accurate with that every time. Throw it out there, put it in a spot, let your guy go get it, And, those are just some little areas that I think he could improve on.
Don't want to belabor the point, but the average depth of target last year, it was terrible for Justin Herbert. And a guy who could throw like that and has that good of an arm.
No doubt.
He was down there at the bottom with like Daniel Jones, who's 6 yards downfield. He was at 7 yards downfield.
Yeah.
So amongst the worst in the NFL for Justin Herbert. He should never be there again. Now,
never.
There could be a couple reasons for that, right? He was hurt.
Right.
Had that labrum injury, throwing shoulder. You don't know how much that affected him as the year went on. Didn't get talked about that much.
Yep.
But also the offensive way they were playing. You've already mentioned it.
Yeah.
Joe Lombardi is gone now. Kellen Moore is there. You've not always been that, heaping much praise on Kellen Moore in the past, but he is there. It's a different voice. Perhaps they'll go a little more vertical.
I think they will.
Mike Williams, you hope he can stay healthy.
Right.
They got Quentin Johnson from TCU.
Yeah.
Got another receiver from TCU, Darius Davis, who is over there now. So what do you think? How do you think this changes what they do, what they can do, assuming that Mike Williams can stay healthy, which I also do think is a very big thing.
It is a definitely big thing. I mean, he's a big-time talent and a talent that fits how they play and how their quarterback throws the ball, right? So I think that's where it's bigger than you think. I think all the things we're questioning are all offensive issues. He's not the kind of guy that's dropping back going, oh, I want to find the 5-yard completion. He's not that kind of guy. He's dying to throw it deep. When they call a play that's deep, he does everything he can to try to throw it deep and make the big play that way. So, no, that's where the offense did him a disservice. They did themselves a disservice by not taking advantage, opening up the field the way they should. And that's where I think Kellen Moore is going to be great. Kellen Moore, we've talked about Dak Prescott in the years past, their ability to push the – that's why I've ranked him in years past higher than most people, because I put great value in the fact that he could push the ball down the field with such ease and be so good in that department. So that's the one thing I do like here about the Kellen Moore marriage with Justin Herbert. I think it's going to open it up. And one thing I think I didn't say here, right, because I'll get into this with one other guy in a minute, but he's clearly, to me, one of the top 2 back shoulder throwers in football, right? That's where he's awesome too. And that's where I think Mike Williams and Quentin Johnson were going to come into play. And that's where when Mike Williams is not there, it does hurt them. Not only is he good at everything else, but Mike Williams is one of those guys where when even he's covered, he's not covered. And Herbert's one of those guys where it's like, even when you're covered, I can still fit it in. Right? So that's where it's a perfect marriage. And I think Quentin Johnson can be like that too. So now you get a blend of system and that kind of guy with that kind of arm and everything goes with it. I think that's where that can be, a big-time potential move up for all of them.
This is a problem for me because I've been high on the Chargers for a few years now. They've been my pick. I picked them to go to the Super Bowl last year.
Uh-huh.
But now looking at their offense, Austin Eckler is going to be back.
Yeah.
He's going to be motivated.
Oh.
The defense has got stars everywhere.
Exactly. They're one of those teams it's like they're playoff caliber. We know that. They're Super Bowl caliber, I think, on paper, but we just got to see that battle-testedness play. Can they stay freaking healthy?
Yeah.
Again, that was a big thing last year. That I would say they did not get the credit they deserve for the injury bug that they weathered the storm
everywhere.
with.
Defense, offensive line.
Exactly right. And that's where I give Brandon Staley a lot of credit. Keeping things together, keeping them battle-tested and tough for last year. But, yeah, it needs to go up in another level, as we've seen. His shining moment right now is a loss in Week 18 versus the Raiders 2 years ago, where he made a bunch of unbelievable plays, but, still hasn't found the way to overcome in some of those moments. And you know me, I don't want to blame the quarterback on all of that, but I think we can even get into the playoff game this year. You're up 27-0, right? I don't know. I'd have a hard time believing the 3 guys in front of him would have lost the 27-0 lead no matter what. And that's where I just feel like he can become a little more assertive overall. Himself, a leader, a playmaker. And then I think he's got a chance to, do some even more special things.
Yeah, from the Chargers podcast on their website, they go, one of the podcasters says, I think this is going to be much more of a vertical attack this year, going back to the rookie year with Justin Herbert,
That's
with
right.
T. Billy, Jalen Guyton, Mike Williams, catching bombs seemingly on a weekly basis. So that would be awesome to see.
I hope so. And then, that's why, that rookie year when he had Shane Steichen there and that group, right, they pushed the ball down the field, and that made us excited. But Justin Herbert, he doesn't want to throw the ball 7 yards per throw. He doesn't. And that's where hopefully this offense unchains him and lets him let it fly. And I think they're going to be a much more dangerous team if they play that way. You know me. I don't think dink and dunk works anymore. I don't. I think we're out of that era. I think teams have gotten too good. You got to make some plays, and hopefully they can get to that.
You upgrade him, he becomes the machine version 2.0.
Right.
Right? And then 3.0. Yeah. You just keep upgrading, like iOS 17, whatever we're up to right now. So the machine, Justin Herbert, in a tier by himself, your number 4 quarterback in your top 40 rankings this year. We go on to our next tier now. There are 2 quarterbacks in this tier, and the tier is Hall of Game. And it was interesting hearing you describe that before we started this podcast. You think both of these quarterbacks, what they do basically the best in the NFL.
Yeah, I do. I think, and don't want to give it away here, but yeah, exactly right. They have 2 different ways of styles of playing, right? They have 2 different ways of getting it done. Both are extremely effective and awesome. And not to say that they're different styles, but each one can kind of cross over into the other one's lane a little bit too, and be like, oh, no, I can do what you can do here too. And the other one can be like, hey, I can do what you can do too, right? Maybe not quite as good, but it's not like I'm like, incapable of this. So, yeah, this is – woo.
And the guy who's number 1 does them both really well. So that's another
topic. It's a combination. Exactly
25 minutes from now.
These guys are freaking special. So these 2 right here. And this was probably the hardest part of my top 8 or top 10. Like I told you at the start here. I never changed it, but I do think it's really close. And I definitely looked at it a few times and went, and I just kept walking by it. And then of course, yesterday, my last look confirmed really what I thought.
All right, let's start with number 3.
Number 3.
Your number 3 quarterback in the Chris Simms top 40 quarterback countdown list is...
That's right, my boy Blue, Josh Allen, Buffalo Bills. All right, Josh Allen, I mean, come on. We know what we're talking about here. It's a freak show. He's a star. He's the greatest one-man show in football, for better or worse, And I think that this year there was a little bit more worse maybe involved in it than like the 2 previous years before this. All right, so that's where I would get into that a little bit. But when you talk about Josh Allen, I mean, we're talking about one of the all-around most gifted quarterbacks we've seen in NFL history. There's no denying that. It's like, and I also would throw on top of that, Ahmed, I'm not sure if there is any team more dependent on the QB's playmaking ability to get a win than the Buffalo Bills. He is the playmaker. Even with these other guys we're talking about, they have some guys in their team that, multiple guys that can make a play outside the realm every now and then. With Allen, yeah, Diggs a little bit, okay, but I don't put Diggs in the Jamar Chase category and all of that. But they are reliant on Allen to make the big play, big explosion, all of that, where the other ones might have a little bit more of a system to help them out with that a little bit more, and that's where I certainly give them some credit.
So a recent NFL analyst said this about Josh Allen, quote, "We're watching an all-time great, first ballot Hall of Famer."
Is this me?
I hope people realize that. We're watching Elway in his prime or Marino. That was you.
I was going to say, this has got to be me. I mean, I was when you went to the Elway part, I was like, that's definitely me.
Who stole my words? You're used to that, too. People stealing your words and playing them off as their own.
Right.
So you have always been, I mean, he's your boy Blue, right?
He's my boy Blue.
You were the one sounding the alarm when he was undervalued in the draft and all that stuff.
Right.
And so you have been riding Josh Allen for a long time.
Yeah.
Now, you had him number 1 last year.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was like, he might never relinquish this spot because just of your love of him, you love of what he can do, like you just described here. But he has moved down to 3 for you.
Right.
Why did he move down a couple spots?
Well, one and 2 are awesome.
Yes.
Right? So that's the first thing. And then, 2, to more of your thing, I think it got a little too reckless and aggressive this year. Right? It strayed over just over that line a few times more than we had seen since his rookie year. Right? So that's where I think it was a little different, a little too aggressive at times, looking for the big play. Like I told you before, looking down the middle, Diggs, he might come open still on the big post. And it's like, no, there's 2 guys there. Don't pat it 2 more times. Just throw the ball underneath. Gabe Davis is open, blah. A little bit of that, a little bit of holding the ball too long, a little bit of, I think I can break this tackle and still set up and throw the ball. Fumble, right? And that's what led to, what was it, 15 interceptions, another handful of fumbles this year, right? And some moments there. So that, I think, is the big thing. I do think his arm injury affected him a little bit. I'll say that too. and I know he's going to be healthy, but I do think there was a difference in the consistency he made the big throws before he hurt his arm as compared to after he hurt his arm. That affected things a little bit. But, yeah, overall, just felt like he got a little too loose and tried to do a little too much last year.
Our friend Der Beobachter said, I feel that Allen slightly regressed last season. Is that only because of the change at OC, or do you see other reasons for that? The supporting cast around him on the field remained on the same low level, in my opinion. So his numbers, interceptions were high, but he did have 15 interceptions the year before.
Yeah.
Now, these may have been more careless interceptions.
I think they were more careless
his
ones.
fault.
Right.
His quarterback rating was better than last year. His yards per game, too. So some of the numbers, if you go by QBR, that was better this past year. I do think that there is this feeling like he took a step back. Some of the numbers don't bear that out. You think he just was a little more loose with the football, but there's still, so much good with Josh Allen.
So much good. I mean, again, this group here is nitpicky, right?
But why do you think the numbers took a step back?
I think some of that. I think
outside of the carelessness with the football.
Yeah, I think some of that. I think again, the numbers look great and all of that, but at times too, where it's like, okay. Numbers are good. Big play here, big play there. Yeah, the numbers got to maybe where they should have been, but the drive before, you should have took this completion for 5, that completion for 5, this completion for 8, this completion for 10, and we would have got a field goal in that drive, and we didn't get it, right? Now, the next drive, you threw a bomb and made something happen, whatever, and it's still big numbers, but I just feel like there was a little bit of a consistency missed in his game, maybe, compared to what we saw in the years before. It's a blend of course, a guy that can run the offense, and then, of course, has got some of the best backyard scrambling ability we've ever seen, right? I think all of that. Hey, the offense, I don't think the offense was a problem. I didn't look at it like that at all. Their offense now, it doesn't lend itself to a lot of easy completions, and they're going to push the ball down the field, and they put a lot on them. I mean, that's the one thing that, compared to all these guys in the top 4, when I watch Josh Allen's passes, I mean, just so many of the throws it's everybody downfield 15, 20 yards or deeper, right? It's never it's very rarely a bunch of plays in a row where it's 5 yards here, 6 yards here, 5 yards here, 6 yards here. But I think it's, what we're saying. It's more of the consistency, accuracy, and more of the big moments, I think, this year maybe than compared to the last year. Yeah. Where the last year last few years he struck in every big moment. This year maybe it wasn't quite the same.
Well, especially in the playoffs, right? They beat Miami, but it's a game they won only by 3 points. He had 2 interceptions in that game. And then they lose to Cincinnati. They lose by 17. They get blown out. No touchdowns, 1 interception. It seemed like Stephon Diggs was upset with his quarterback. And so it ended. It was a very sour ending for Josh Allen at the end of last year.
Yeah. And, back to the stat thing, too, I think they were a better team 2 years ago. Last year I felt like it was a little too – I didn't think the defense was as dominant, right? They couldn't run. They had stretches where they couldn't run the ball at all, so that led them to, hey, we got to throw the ball even more with you. You got to get more yards from you. So I don't know if the bump in stats was really a good thing for them overall, right?
Yeah.
Other things I want to just get in with him, just to point out to people, right? I mean, you heard me say. I mean, it's arguably the strongest arm in the history of the NFL. I think it is. I think I would say that.
Who would be close?
Elway, Rodgers, Favre. Mahomes is up there, right? He's in that class. But I think those would be the guys I'd probably go, you want to talk about Herbert, really, right? Pure flamethrowers, lasers. This guy, I think if we took the 50 best throws in football last year, Josh Allen would be more throws on there than anybody, right? All right, so that's where he's amazing. Top 5 running back. I mean, top 5 running quarterback in football for sure, right? I wrote even maybe it's top 3, really, right? I don't know. Maybe Lamar, Justin Fields, and Hurts beat him, but he's 4th, okay? But I would say he's a top 2 scrambler. That's what I would say. I mean, him and Mahomes are definitely the best scrambling quarterbacks. There's a difference between scrambler and runner for all those that are going, wait, what the hell's the difference? Scrambler, I mean, running around behind the line of scrimmage so he can set up and throw a laser somewhere. He's this Rand Tarkenton type stuff with him and Mahomes and what they do in that department, right? I think, too, this year, mechanics were off a little bit. It was a little too cute, right? He's so talented. At times I felt like he was just like, who cares if my body's lined up over here? I'm still going to throw the 20-yard out route over there. And it's like, well, okay, I know you can do it, but you're protected. Just let's get lined up and do it the right way. Let's just not do this for shits and giggles, right? So there was some throws missed because of that. I talked about him being too loose and all that, the arm injury, all that. He throws at his sidearm as much as Mahomes or Lamar, where I would say are the two leaders in sidearm throws in football, right? He's an incredible deep ball thrower. I mean, incredible. And then, I guess that's the can flick it like we talked about with Herbert.
Has more of the touch and
there's
the
way more touch in Josh Allen's game than he gets credit for. He makes a lot of, here comes Stephon Diggs. He's at 10 yards, and he's about to make the break at 12 to go to the corner, and he's already thrown the ball up. And now Stephon Diggs runs under it and catches it 27 yards down the field, right? There's a lot more than that than people realize. I think everybody thinks he's just throwing, darts all over the field. Like I said, the throwing on the run is off the charts good. I talked about he doesn't get a lot of easy throws or a lot of yak in that department either. And then, my ending, I just wrote, he's an amazing player. Too much looking for the big play this year. Even left the pocket a little more than he should have this year. Like, there was a number of plays like that, too, where I just went, oh, Josh, just stay there. You're good. I know you can make plays outside of the pocket, but it's like this year fell into, like, the trap Mahomes did 2 years ago, where 2 years ago when they lost to the Bengals in the AFC Championship game, remember that year? It was just like, I was always looking for the big play, always looking for the home run. And you're just like, wait, the guy opened right here. He's right here. He's right here. Why are you floating in the pocket in here and looking for the big play? Just stand in the pocket. He's open, right? And I felt like he fell into that trap a little bit this year. And I think maybe it was just he was feeling the pressure of all of it. I got to get to the Super Bowl. I got to win the Super Bowl. I got to carry the team. I got to make the play. And, there was a ton of good, but I think it led to a little bit more bad than we've seen from him.
Well, he's been very consistent running the football, something you mentioned about one of the top running quarterbacks in the NFL. His number of attempts last year was 124. That was 2 more than the previous year. He had 1 fewer yards, so very consistent, 762 yards last year. Question is that too much?
Too much. I mean, what? 762 yards rushing? 124 rushes? I mean, no wonder he felt like he had to make stuff happen. I mean, again, that's where I feel for him a little bit. It's just, hey, it's 2nd and 2. We don't run the ball good traditionally, so we need you to run it between the tackles. Hey, it's 3rd and 1 on the goal line. We need you to pound it in there like you're Nick Chubb. Like, what? That's where it's a little much, right? Hey, it's 3rd down, and we need you to make another amazing throw. We're not going to come up with a short way or something, or somebody can catch a ball short and run for a 1st down or do anything like that. It doesn't happen as much with him as it does everybody else, and that's where I do feel for him. But, man, he's amazing, and like I said, he's one of the greatest talents as we ever seen in this sport. I do think they could add a little bit into his supporting cast, as I think both you and I agree. We'll see where it goes.
No,
there.
They did that. They just signed wide receiver Marcel Aitman.
Oh, it's over.
From the XFL. He's coming over from the St. Louis Battlehawks.
You're funny.
So they got a new weapon there.
Funny.
Do we know anything about that relationship with him and Stephon Diggs? It seemed to get weird at the end of the year.
Well, I mean, it got weird. I don't know. I mean, I don't know where it is. I don't doubt this. I think it's a close relationship from everything I know. I do think they're buddies. I have a hard time thinking Diggs is mad at. Well, I mean, what can he be mad at, Josh? What's he mad at? I have a hard time. I think you just got a guy in Diggs that was emotional. He didn't like the way the year ended, and then he has a clip of just sitting there watching Josh Allen when they're down by 17 in the AFC divisional game, and everybody just runs with their narrative. What's a better situation than Stephon Diggs is in? Where does he think he's going to get? I mean, okay, if they'll get rid of some of the receivers in Kansas City and maybe he can go with Mahomes, or maybe they can get rid of some of the receivers in Cincinnati and he can go there with Joe Burrow. I mean, what situation is going to be better than the one he's in? So hopefully he realizes what a special combination he's got going on with this guy right here. And I wouldn't be shocked if DeAndre Hopkins' price tag comes down if he doesn't, end up there. To me, that would be the place. If I were him, I'd want to go, and I think they have a need for it too.
Your number 3 quarterback was number 1 last year, but still top 3 in the Hall of Game tier. Josh Allen. You've always loved the physical traits of the quarterbacks, of course, the big quarterbacks. They can throw hard, strong arms. Your next quarterback can do a lot of those things really well, but you would never look at him and say, this is the physically gifted quarterback. But you have always liked this quarterback, even though he's not the typical Chris Simms quarterback.
Right. Well, listen, the dude can play. Guy's got game, and he's got skills. And just because it's not the strongest arm or the fastest guy in football doesn't mean I don't think he's awesome. Yeah, Joe Burrow, number 2, mofo. That's right.
Number 2 in the entire NFL.
Number 2 in the entire NFL. Joe Burrow is awesome. I mean, and I think the thing I would start off by saying is nobody plays traditional QB in the NFL better than Joe Burrow, right? That's where I'd go. He's the most surgical QB in the NFL. For 2023, nobody plays the position or QB better than Burrow. When you talk about timing, footwork, rhythm, lightning quick decision, precision passing, that's Joe Burrow. He plays the position the way the position was intended, right? It just feels like Bill Walsh and Joe Gibbs and Mike Shanahan and Mike Holmgren and Don Coryell are like, give me some tape of Joe Burrow so I could teach my quarterbacks how to play quarterback, right? That's who he is. He's unreal that way. And yes, I mean, he plays in the pocket, but it's pocket plus like you talked about. And I just think when you talk about, again, a guy that diagnoses defenses and makes the appropriate throw, it's as fast as anybody I've seen. I mean, it's can be up there with the Bradys and the Mannings of the world. That's what we're talking about here in that department. And then his arm is stronger than people think. And, as I said, Herbert was mechanically awesome. As I started to watch him, I went, oh, actually, Burrow's even mechanically awesomer, right? That's where he's amazing. Burrow is just an assassin right now in the NFL.
So you describe him as just the best traditional quarterback and consistent, and his numbers are incredibly similar the past couple of years. And he didn't throw as much down the field this past year, hurt his average per completion. But this is a quarterback that was the most sacked in 2021, was up there again this year, had 10 fewer sacks this year, but was still, maybe that was because of him and getting the ball out of the pocket quicker.
I think so.
Does the way he plays lend him to being more consistent than even your number 1 quarterback and Josh Allen, like we just talked about? Like,
sometimes there might not be the valleys, right?
Got it.
A little bit right there where, we've had games where Mahomes and Allen, and we just go, man, what the hell were they doing in the second half of that game? It just becomes a little too much. Like, I can fit it in there. I can make this play. I can make that play, right? He doesn't seem to have that. Or if he does, like he had it in week 1 last year against the Steelers where he threw 5 interceptions, but like 3 of them were like the most unbelievable defensive plays in the world. It wasn't like he was trying to do something crazy. I mean, one of them, he's trying to throw a slant route, and TJ Watt just jumps up and is like, raw, and catches the ball. It wasn't like, oh, that was crazy by Burrow, right? So, yeah, that's where, again, it's a deep conversation. And that's where, like, we got into a few weeks ago with Carson Palmer, right? He talked about, like, I think he's the best quarterback in football, right?
That's what he said about Joe Burrow.
He said that about Joe Burrow. And I think a lot of traditional, QB people would look at that, and there would be some that agree with him there. My thing would be you don't have to play the position by the book anymore to be the best at it. There's more ways to skin the cat than there used to be, right?
People have colored outside the lines now and expanded what it means to be a quarterback.
Exactly right. I mean, Josh Allen or, Mahomes or anybody, right? We're talking about. But, yeah, I don't think anybody works the system more, or the offensive system more to their advantage than Burrow, right? And then his ability to work the pocket is special. And he makes a ton of plays outside the pocket, too. That's where I don't want people to think we're sitting here and talking about a guy that's like, oh, he's system quarterback. No, this is way more than that. It's just like for 2023, he's the most systemish of the quarterbacks. But, man, there's still, you were making fun of me. You heard me on Florio today. He's a slippery SOB.
Yeah. Well, and you don't even necessarily like the system, right? So if he was a system quarterback, that means he's just running the system. You think sometimes he elevates this offense to even better than what the system says it should be.
Agreed. And I feel like at the end of the year last year, they started to color outside the lines as an offense altogether a little bit. I think hopefully that'll only improve. But yeah, there's been times where it's been a little too basic. West Coasty, right? But, man, his ability to just make it work, it's second to none. I mean, I talked about he still makes a ton of plays outside the pocket and the movement and all of that, but it's the incredible blend of system, and then you add on the one-on-one ball that he can do too, right? I think he's up there in the conversation for the best deep thrower in football. I mean, again, the amount of times he throws it up there at Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and it ends up being like, oh, it's a touchdown, or oh, it was on the money. I mean, it's amazing. It's like there's glue or like a string that attaches him. And he's great at that. And like we talked about during the season, any season, yeah, he wants to work the system or the concept with the 3 receivers. But if he looks over there and number 1's got a guy on him that he doesn't deem to be really special, then that guy's about to get his ass torn up, because he's going to throw a back shoulder to Jamar Chase, a go route to Jamar Chase, a slant route to Jamar Chase, and he's going to work you that way too. So he's not like so system-y playbook, I don't want it to be portrayed like that is what I'm saying.
Do you think he's number 1 in the NFL at reading defenses?
I do.
Pre-snap and during the play.
And to your point, I think the first 10 or 12 weeks this year, the pass protection might have been worse than it was the year before, where you said he led the NFL in sacks. But I think this is where Joe Burrow's amazing. From 2 years ago, he made the adjustment of, I'm going to find ways to throw the ball harder. I feel like this year he went, I don't give a shit. I'm not going to let the pass protection, it's not going to beat us. I'm not. And he has just like a sixth sense of I'm dropping back to pass. Ooh, I can feel the right, defensive tackle or defensive end is kind of getting on me. Let me get it out quick and just stay ahead of the chains. Instead of maybe as a rookie, you would have patted the ball and be like, wait, something's about to come open. Boom, I get sacked and whatever else, and now it's 2nd and 18. But he always keeps them in a good position. And then his nuance of knowing defenses and where they should drop or go. It's like if you take one false step or your eyes move one way, he's so quick to see it and go, oh, wait, you voided that area. Here's the ball. Boom, go, run. And throwing the ball on the money to where guys can run and never break stride. That's where he's amazing. He really is. Talk about his toughness. We know that because of what we're talking about. I mean, come on. We've seen Mahomes, the year they lost to the Bucs in the Super Bowl, is the only thing in recent history that I can find comparable of a team that was really good with a great quarterback where I go, the protection was below average NFL standards, and we still go, they'll win. They're going to win. Mm-hmm. They're going to be in the playoffs. They're going to win playoff games. And, it got better at the end of the year. I don't want to say that.
Well, it did, and then they got hurt, right?
And then they got hurt.
So they've added Orlando Brown to that offensive line, and hopefully health with Jonah Williams and Alex Kappa. And so, they could be improved in that area, and then watch out.
Exactly. Watch out. No run game last year, right? Run game last year was worse than the year before. Mixon had 1,000 yards 2 years ago. This last year, I think he barely got over 1,000, right? 2 years ago, I think he was top 2 or 3 in the NFL in rushing yards. So, there wasn't there. You talk about the big plays and all that. Jamar Chase was hurt a little bit this year, too, so he missed some time. He wasn't, I think, as explosive as he could be.
Run game wasn't as good for them this year.
Right.
Joe Mixon took a step back.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was reading online some recent articles about him, and there was this one that came up from Willie Anderson, a former Bengals lineman, 4-time Pro Bowler, and he was talking about Burrow, and this is what he said on this podcast. He goes, I want to thank you as a former lineman, is what he said to Burrow. How you handle yourself during a game with your offensive lineman. As offensive linemen, we always look to see which quarterback is really cool with his guy, which offensive linemen really ride with their quarterback. And I think you mentioned Jalen Hurts as being perhaps the best leader at any position in the NFL. And our number 1 quarterback is a good leader too, and I think all these guys are pretty good leaders. But I think Joe Burrow's got some special, unique qualities there of rallying the troops, and I don't know if he's on the doorstep there with Hurts, but he's pretty close.
I think so. Maybe Hurts is so good with his day-to-day messaging and what he says at the podium, and just he's so great with that. Right, so maybe we don't have as many sound bites with Burrow.
Yeah, Joe's a unique individual, but he just
when he speaks, you listen, and it's when he speaks, it's not just like bullshit coming out of his mouth. It's thought out. That's the one thing I know from being around him a little bit. Dude's smart. Dude's like
he has no hidden. The thing that strikes me, he has like no hidden agenda.
Exactly,
it's just like
right.
He just lets it fly.
Exactly right. That's why I love him. I love him. And where I'll say he ups Hurts, and I think him and Mahomes have this, right? I mean, ice in the veins. Team's never out of it. We know that, right? Great deep ball thrower. But I'm not sure any team believes in their QB more than Burrow, other than the Chiefs and Mahomes, right? I think he has the most effect on his locker room where they're like, who? We're playing the all-decade team of the 90s? Oh, it's okay. We got Burrow. We'll probably be able to hang, right? We got Mahomes. Oh, okay. Like, I don't think anybody has that effect. I mean, when your team can start to make jokes and call it Burrowhead Stadium and shit like that, that's when you know they got confidence in you. We're going to call it Burrowhead Stadium on the team that's been in the AFC Championship game 5 years in a row and won the Super Bowl and do all that. But we're going to, like, that just tells you what they think of that guy. And then that's where, there's a magic about him overall that is, it's palpable. And I saw it in person last year when I was hanging around with him a little bit.
So he is currently second in the MVP odds.
Yep.
To Patrick Mahomes, and let's just do it right now. One more thing.
I didn't hit one negative with him.
Oh,
right. I got to show my one negative with him.
Okay.
Is he can be too West Coasty, right? To be West Coasty. I know you heard me say this right before the show, where, I'd like to see him like Mahomes and Allen. I know. Hey, you heard me talk about. Hey, there's a formula to playing quarterback. Hey, we run this play. We take 5 steps. The first read, you take a hitch. Second read, 2 hitches. Third read, 3 hitches. You try to listen to that to give yourself a gauge and a mental clock. Right. That's to me where Burrow. And again, this is tough because he hasn't been protected well. Mm-hmm. So he's always probably erring on let me just get it out. But there are plays as I went back and watched throws yesterday where I just go, don't be so by the book. I know it says 5 steps and 1 hitch and throw to this guy, right? All right. Or second hitch, go to this guy. But there's a few where I go, you see it. The first guy is about to be open for 25, and you are taking your second hitch. And I know that's what you're coached to do. Mm-hmm. But the second hitch, throw it to the guy at 25 yards down the field, right? That'd probably be my only negative about him at all, right? Other than that, the dude is pretty flawless.
Bengals are favored to win the AFC North this year as we check out our BetMGM Bengals and Bills odds. Ooh. So we talk about the 2 quarterbacks that we have in this tier of Hall of Game. The odds for the Bengals to win the AFC North is plus 120. The odds for the Bills to win the AFC East is plus 125. So very similar here. The Jets are second in the AFC North with plus 240. The Jets are second in the AFC East with plus 250. So wow, very similar situations for both these clubs.
Very much.
Who do you think has a better chance to win their division? Who would you put your dollar on? The Bengals to win the North, the Bills to win the East.
Man.
That is a hard one.
Oh, my God. I mean, these are arguably the 2 best divisions in football right here, right?
Part of me would almost not want to bet on either.
I mean, I don't know if I would either.
Something I'm more confident about.
I had this conversation with Florio today. In the AFC, there's like only one team that I look at for sure to go, there's no way they can make the playoffs, and that's the Houston Texans. That's what's amazing, right? The Steelers may be another team that I'd go, I don't know if I see playoffs, but certainly a pain in the butt.
I mean, they got Mike Tomlin.
I know. You're
right.
They're going
to have a winning record.
They'll be in it. Yeah. They'll be in it, right. But, like, the AFC is going to have some teams that I think that might not make the playoffs, or we go, they could have won the Super Bowl if they got in, right? I think that's what we're talking about right now.
Like, you think the Ravens are a Super Bowl caliber team?
I do. The Browns have a ton of talent, and if that quarterback gets going, they can make some noise, right? You get to the AFC East, this is where it's tricky. I would go, I don't know. I don't think the Bills' roster is as good as the Jets and the Dolphins right now. I don't think it is. All right, so if you made me put money on one of the top 2 odds right there, I think I'd go with the Bengals still. I think I would. Because the Bills, even though I have great belief in them and Josh Allen, I think for what I said would scare me. And the fact that the teams that are 2 and 3, I think their rosters are better than the Bills. The Bengals, I do think, have the best roster over the Ravens and the Browns. Even though it might be by a smidgen, I'm going to give them the edge, even though it's really close between them and the Ravens, I'll say. But I would give them the edge.
Going to be very, very fun to watch in both of those divisions. The action never stops at BetMGM. You can sign up now using the bonus code Simms. Your first wager is risk-free up to $1,000.
Say you bet $100 on the Browns to win the AFC North. If you win, you'll get $375. Feels like you should get more. But if you lose, you still get $100 worth of free bets.
Simply download the BetMGM app today or go to BetMGM.com. Enter bonus code Simms. Make your first wager risk-free. And then there was one. We all come to, we need the drum roll here because this is big. Because either this quarterback is number one or outside of your top 40. It's crazy, right? There's no in between here. There's only one spot left.
Tom Brady finally made it to one.
And this tier is simply a crown. He is the king of the NFL.
Yeah.
Right now, your number one quarterback for 2023 is
Patrick Mahomes. Shocker. All right. Yep. Captain Obvious right here in Chris Simms. That's right. It's Patrick Mahomes. And it's not just because he won the Super Bowl, but that does help. Okay. That does help. He's the man. And I think the one thing you'd say right off the bat, I'd go, it might be the best QB season in the history of the NFL. I really believe that. You know, I kind of dabbled with that right after they said won the Super Bowl. You heard me say that. But I think after going back and watching a lot of their year 2 different times here, it's unreal. I mean, one, you kind of alluded to it. He's got the blend of Burrow and Allen together, right? Where he can go 5 drives in a row and you're just going, he's surgical like Joe Burrow. And then all of a sudden 2-3 drives, the next 2-3 drives, you just go, holy shit, it's one unbelievable backyard play like Josh Allen after another, right? It's unreal. So, and like to throw for 5,000 yards, 500 yards more than anybody else in football, and the guy who was in second in Brady, right, who had a great year too, threw the ball almost 100 times more than he did, okay? To lead the league in touchdown passes by what, 5 or 6 touchdowns? Right? You know, quarterback rating second in the league, 14-3, number 1 seed, MVP of the league, MVP of the Super Bowl, won the Super Bowl not 100% and went through the AFC playoffs not 100% and beat what I say, and I think there's a lot of people in football would tell you is the most well-orchestrated team we've seen in football maybe in the last 10 to 12 years in the Philadelphia Eagles and beat them in the Super Bowl. I say that's the greatest season in the history of the NFL by a quarterback.
Better than his own 50 touchdown season.
That's right. I mean, that was amazing, and that was maybe one of the most wow ever. But I can't put it in this overall. On the cusp of coming, you choked at home in the AFC Championship game against the Bengals. On the cusp of you're going to get exposed this year. You don't have Tyreek Hill. Looks like somebody got the last laugh there. I mean, what were people thinking by thinking that was going to be the difference? All right? My homie, your homie, my homie, your homie. Whenever he's on, I watch my homie, your homie, my homie, Mahomes and me.
And he's back number 1 for you because he was number 1 in 2020. 2021, and then you had the gall to drop him to number 2 for your guy, Josh Allen. And I remember that podcast. I was sitting here doing it with you, and I was like, you think Josh Allen will carry this number 1 ranking for the rest of time now? Just because I knew you liked him so much. And it does seem like he's just such a big guy, and what he brings running the football. But Patrick Mahomes saw your ranking last year and was like, no, I can be back in number one again. So what specifically, and you've mentioned it, the backyard plays, but what made you fall in love with him again as you did this practice and watched the film over and over again?
I think that he reined it in. He fixed a few issues with his game. I think his foot was an issue 2 years ago.
Yeah.
His running was better. The biggest thing, though, is decision-making and throwing was as good as I've ever seen him, have in his career. His mechanics were off last year. If we went back to last year in 2021 and I showed you plays and throws, I'd go, look at his mechanics. Look at this ball. It's not even spinning the way he's capable of spinning. It doesn't even have the right power that he's capable of. He was off on all of it. This year, like I said, it became more of a blend and the traditional QB play with the mix of the backyard stuff. And then it was the ability to string drives together and play at a high level of quarterback play, but then still go, whoa, here's, in the next drive where, oh man, this defense was all over it, or there was nothing there to be had, and they still drive down and score a touchdown, right? I think that's what's amazing. He's the king of, making something out of nothing, or if nothing's there and you still go, man, the defense won. Oh, but Kansas City still got 20 yards. It's unreal how much you say that. So it's that, and then I think, I talked about Josh Allen saying if he took the top 50 throws in football, he'd probably have the most.
Yeah.
All right. Well, my counter to that would be, but if you took the most highlight plays of the year, Mahomes is winning that one. And, let me differentiate for everybody out there. I said Josh Allen with the throws because I'm not counting 360 alley-oop pass, against the Bucs as a throw. That's just a amazing play. Or run to your right, do a shovel pass that has a spiral against the Los Angeles Chargers that somehow scores. Or run to your right against the Broncos and throw a ball like it's a loaf of bread and you throw it underhand and the guy runs for a 50-yard touchdown. Those aren't throws. Those are plays, right? So that's where he's amazing. Now, listen, he's up there in the throw department too. I mean, we can go through it. It doesn't matter. I mean, 2 feet off the ground. We showed it on social media against the Chargers. 2 feet off the ground, 50-yard post on the money, boom. He has no feet on the ground, and his feet are parallel. That's where it's amazing. Patrick Mahomes. I can't say enough about it. Like I said with other guys, Herbert's the best thrower on the run. Oh, no, but Allen's the best thrower on the run. Then I watch Mahomes and I go, no, Mahomes is the best thrower on the run.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And he's got the greatest hand in the history of the sport. And that's, holds some value with me too.
But where can he improve? You always can get better. You can't go higher in this list, but you always can get better. Matt Nagy, his new offensive coordinator, was there last year, now has been elevated into the OC role after Eric Bieniemy went to Washington. Andy Reid, we know, still does a whole lot of the work there, but Matt Nagy was asked about that recently. He goes, what can he improve? He goes, you can always look to go back to footwork and timing with any quarterback. I think the other thing would be working with his progressions. Instead of maybe trying to force a throw here or there, which I thought he did a good job of last year of making smart decisions, but working to that third, fourth, and sometimes that fifth progression in the play. It sounds like a coach is just make sure you keep doing everything great.
Yeah, right. It's nitpicky stuff.
Yes.
There's not a lot, right? And you're going to have to live with some of that too, because guys like him and Burrow and Allen and Herbert and them too, right? Where you'd go technically, I'd like you to throw to the number 3 receiver here, but, they can make throws where they can be like, hey, wait, get to 1. Number 2's barely open, and I got to throw it sidearm, but I'll do it. And they do it so much that sometimes it leads them to doing it 1 or 2 more times than you would like as a coach, right? Mm-hmm. But you got to live with that a little bit. There's one area I think he has to improve on. And I said this during the year, but it comes up when I watch again. His deep ball throwing. Again, it's Patrick Mahomes. Right? And we, for years, were like, man, the deep ball, he's amazing. It's just one deep ball after another, and all they do is call deep plays and all that. And it's like the NFL went so far into taking away all their deep passes that he hasn't had the opportunity to do it. And you and I, we sat here and clamored, can they have more of a short passing game and be surgical? And they've gotten way better at that. But I feel like within that, if there was one negative I could look at, is, he left some plays and yards on the field with throws where I'd go, you're Patrick Mahomes, you should hit that, right? He hits 5 other throws where I go, nobody ever in the planet could hit that ball. But it's still where it's like, hey, the pocket's clean, Valdez-Scantling's open down the left sideline. Oh, we miss it, right? There's just a few too many of those that I would go, man, you're too freaking awesome to ever miss any of those. But, that's, again, nitpicky.
What do you think about his weapons, too? You mentioned Valdez-Scantling. He's going to be one of the wide receivers, Kadarius Toney.
Yeah.
Sky Moore.
Yeah.
They did draft
Rasheed Rice.
Right. Second rounder.
Got Travis Kelce.
Of course, and Isaiah Pacheco is.
I think it's a really good group. I do. I know there's no Tyreek Hill guy there, right? But again, with a guy like Mahomes, I don't know if they necessarily need that. And Kadarius Toney has enough of that, and I think enough of a weapon that he'll fill the void, and then they'll fill the void with other certain guys and their skill set and whatever. But, I mean, this guy's the human highlight reel. Why do you think we need another guy that can make highlights to go along with them? He gonna make it happen.
Spend your money on defense, which is kind of what their draft capital for sure.
O-line, right? That's what they're spending it on, right? I think they finally realized we don't necessarily have to have that. Oh, he's a top 3 receiver in football to make this happen. If we got a lot of A- and B+ receivers, we'll still have the best offense in football. So that's where he's special. His ability to, I just want to say a few more things. Mm-hmm. I talked about, his ability to feel and talk about the things with Joe Burrow, to go off script a little bit, where you go technically he should throw the ball here, right? But he's got such great feel, and he goes, oh, wait, I see this guy open, and this guy made a mistake, right, where they sees the field in slow motion like Burrow does. But instead of just going, oh, wait, well, the coach said I should throw it here, he goes, no, wait, the guy that was my first read, and I came off to the second read, but I saw the first read pop back open, I'm going to still throw it to him. I mean, it's not something you want every young quarterback to do, but it's still unbelievable that he doesn't. He's been doing it his whole career. He's still the leader in, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's going to throw that throw. Just like the Super Bowl. I mean, he's getting tackled and hit in the face and slapped in the head, and he's falling down. He throws a sidearm on 3rd down. He's like, I can still throw it to Kelsey crossing the field sidearm as I'm got a guy that's 350 pounds and his hand is in my face mask, right?
And my ankle's busted
right,
up.
And then so that's where he's the greatest awkward off-platform thrower in the history of the NFL. Nobody ever better. It's the greatest hand I've ever seen. I've never seen a guy who could stand in a gap between the right guard and the right tackle and throw a ball, through the left guard and the left tackle. And you're like, what? And we don't even blink. We're at a point now where we just go, Mahomes, right? That's what it is. And then his touch is off the charts good. I mean, he's think about all the throws he makes, a back coming out of the backfield, and he just touches it up there, and the guy goes and catches it. Or, even the throw he had in the end zone, was it the first touchdown, a little fade to the right sideline against the Eagles, right?
Right.
He's amazing. And when his mechanics are the way they were this year, man, he's going to be tough to beat, right? He's the best scrambler ever. He's also a very good runner. Right, he wins more games where their team was outplayed than I've seen ever before, or where the defensive game plan was perfect and you go, they still won, right? I mean, the Titans game, I think about that. There wasn't 4 people open the whole game, and they just said, we're going to throw it 67 times, and the will find a way to get it done.
Threw for 400 yards.
It's amazing, and it's I know the quarterback rating wasn't any good, but I mean, when you talk about what was there to be had and with that game, he's just amazing that way. And then the magic. I mean, like we talked about, the team, the whole universe believes in Patrick Mahomes.
The superlatives could just go on and on. Could. Led the NFL in pass yards and touchdowns last year. First NFL pass yards leader to win the Super Bowl. He was the first regular season MVP to win the Super Bowl since '99. First player to win multiple championships and multiple MVPs in his first 6 seasons.
It's unreal.
He's getting up there, though. He's turning 28 in September. So
he's so funny.
He's not 30 yet, but he's almost 28.
Right.
And so we did this with our Sunday Night Football Twitter account. We go AFC quarterback experience and all the different years.
The year they're going into, because he's going into 7th year.
He's going to go into his 7th year here. Got some rookies on there. And then Patrick Mahomes saw that. He quote tweeted it. He goes, dang, I got old quick.
He's amazing. First off, he's such a sports junkie. He watches everything and anything that has to deal with sports. And I love that he gets involved in this stuff, whether he's watching a golf tournament, a basketball tournament, right? I think he's arguably the greatest athlete in football. And that's really rare for me to say that about a quarterback, because I don't always just go, athletes into running and jumping, and that comes into play too when you talk about athlete.
Yeah.
But I know he can do both. He's a damn good runner, jumper. If you ask me, I have one guy hit a 3-point shot in the NFL to win me $1 million, I'm going to pick Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to ask me one guy in the NFL that got to hit it within 20 feet of the hole playing golf from 180 yards out, I'm picking Patrick Mahomes. I think if you make me, one guy with a baseball, you got to throw a strike from center field, I'm going to go with Patrick Mahomes. swinging the bat, he'd be up there. I might pick Josh Allen. Josh Allen can really swing the bat.
He did. Recently, he was in Toronto.
But he's up there. But that's my point. This is special. And there's a mental and physical toughness about the guy that we don't give credit to the all-time greats sometimes, because we just go, oh, they're so gifted, right? Mm-hmm. Michael Jordan was both. He was so gifted and had that. And I think that's what this guy is too. And that's why I think he's comparable to Michael Jordan. And then last thing, Ahmed, to play the way he plays and only have 12 turnovers is insane. I mean, insane. If we go back and watch some of the throws he made during the year and you go, he only threw 12 interceptions when he threw, 7 passes like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar this year and jumped up and threw hook shots across the field? It's unreal. We've never seen anything like him. He's in the GOAT status. He's the king of the NFL. And I think he's arguably the most physically gifted quarterback we've ever seen in the history of football. And I don't say that lightly either, because I think of a lot of Allen, Elway, Aaron Rodgers in their prime in that category.
He does it all. Colors inside the lines, outside the lines, does it with flair,
right,
and just wins. And they've won 2 championships now. Travis Kelce was recently on FanDuel TV's Run It Back,
right,
comparing their dynasty to the Warriors dynasty they were doing on that show. And he goes, I think at the end of the day, Patty Mahomes finds a way to overtake it. What is it? They've got 4 championships. I think Pat Mahomes is definitely going to find a way to get more than 4 championships. Hopefully I'm still along for the ride by the time he gets there. So they would need 3 more. And it's hard to say in football, but we've seen it with Tom Brady and the Patriots. You got that quarterback, you got that piece, you figure out a way to play. I mean, would you bet against Patrick Mahomes at least winning?
He's going to make it interesting. He's going to make it interesting. And just that quote in itself just tells you everything we're talking about. I mean, the guys in the locker room are looking at this guy going, we've never seen anything like him. This is a baller of ballers, right? Got moxie, toughness, whatever you want to say. The dude is the real deal. And yeah, right now there's nobody bigger in the sport. There's nobody. The way he acts, the way he handles himself, the humble, the coolness, never changing from the way he got into the NFL, to me is just like it's really special, and we're watching a GOAT in the making.
I Won the Mums tweets into us saying, what is the worst team that you could add your number 1 quarterback to and make them a Super Bowl contender?
Oh.
Because Washington seems to be ranked in the 20s in most power rankings, but I'd like our chances with Mahomes throwing to Terry, Dotson, Samuels.
That's a valid one right off the bat. He's right. That'd be a team where you go, wait, with that defense and those weapons. And, of course, now they got Eric Bieniemy there, too. That fits, too. But, even despite all that, yeah, that'd be one where, you look at it and I'd go, oh, no, that's a team that we're going maybe could be in the playoffs. But if he was the quarterback, we'd go, hey, they're a Super Bowl contender.
Houston Texans.
No, there's only so much you can do.
Would they make the playoffs?
I'd have to see it first. But he'd make them dangerous. I think he can make anybody a contender to make the playoffs almost. Just about anybody. There's a few in there right now that maybe not, but that's how special, and that's really hard, and in football that's rare, right? And that's to me where you get into the Mahomes, Allen, Rodgers, Brett Favre, John Elway, single entities that are so gifted that I think they can make almost just about any situation work.
Yeah,
not saying it means a Super Bowl win, but can make it work. There's no system dependence at all. And I think that's where that's a really, really rare class.
I want to continue that conversation a little bit, but let's take a look at your final completed top 40 ranking for 2023. You're done with ranking people for a while. This is sad, right?
You've done like 2 months.
You've done all the draft, and now you've done your 40 quarterbacks.
Yep.
A homie's going to ask what your top 5 running backs are. I think we've already had questions about who your top 5 play colors are, so maybe we'll have you rank people again.
I'm sure we will.
But here it is. The king with the crown up top, the Hall of Game with Joe Burrow and Josh Allen. You got the machine there with Justin Herbert. So along those lines, because we do say this, and I think you and I agree with this, like a team, you don't need an elite quarterback, like elite quarterback to win the Super Bowl. You mentioned Nick Foles won a Super Bowl. Like if you have the team around, you can win, because I think there's this false narrative like you need to have this guy or else you're never going to win a championship.
Right.
But like you just mentioned there with Mahomes, it's like he gives you a chance.
Yes.
Joe Burrow gives you a chance.
Right.
Josh Allen gives you a chance. How far do you go down your list, do you think, where it's just like, okay, these guys, all these guys, if he is on your team, I'm going to bet that you're going to be in the mix for a playoff spot.
Yeah. I feel like the top 10 probably embodies that, right? I feel like, to be truly true to it there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, where, I feel like if it's an average or above average team and you got those 10 guys, like you're in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, like if those guys are healthy and playing like we know they can play.
Right, exactly right. And again, I'm not going to say all 10 guys can overcome like the worst offensive line in football and some of that stuff, right? But I do think if, you gave them enough to work with there, that the top 10 could all be that caliber of guy that you're talking about. Right, I think that would probably be about where I'd feel about that. There's different stages of how much more confident I am, of course, about some guys than others. But yeah, I think that's a general consensus.
I think
I'd probably go there.
Yeah, I would say. Yeah, I'd be confident with the top 5.
5.
I think top 5. Where if you gave me that player, I'm like, okay, we're going to be in it. Trevor, maybe it's just a little too soon.
Yep, okay.
Jalen, I know you love him and have for years, but I'm not sold yet on Jalen carrying a team by himself. But I mean, I could see it though. If all those guys are playing well and to the top of their ability, for sure.
Yeah, it's a good conversation, definitely. But as you heard from me here, again, I think all the top 10 guys are special, but the top 4 I do think stand above the rest a little bit right now as compared to the rest of the NFL. And I think even 1, 2, 3, or maybe even a little bit of a notch up in front of Herbert right now as well.
So by the numbers, your top 40, top 6 quarterbacks, all from the AFC.
Wow.
Loaded.
I didn't even realize that. Wow, that's unbelievable. You're right. Man, so I had, 7 out of the top 10 in the AFC.
Yeah.
But wow, top 6, all AFC. Wow.
Yeah, 8 of the top 9 from the AFC.
Ooh, that just says it all right there.
Which means that at least one of these guys is guaranteed to miss the playoffs.
That's what's amazing. Every now and then there's a year where I go, ooh, a team that didn't make the playoffs could have won the Super Bowl, and I think this is a year that this happens. There was a few years ago, I said this to Florio today, where like the Steelers, they didn't get in the playoffs. Remember, this is the year Antonio Brown didn't show up the last week of practice. They lost the game. They kind of had some injuries and got off to a slow start. They were playing the Saints in the second to last game of the year, and they were driving down to score, and Juju Smith-Schuster fumbled. You can remember that. And then they needed to win the last game and needed some help, and they didn't get it. But I remember that being the last time, and I want to say that was 2019 maybe, where I remember going, wow, like the Steelers aren't going to get in the playoffs, and I think they could have maybe won the Super Bowl. And I think we could have that this year.
We are seeing maybe a changing of the guard, too, because the average age of your top 7 is 25 and a half.
We're in a I stop everybody saying we need more quarterbacks. Like, I know we all would like 32 superstars and everybody wants a Mahomes. We're in a special era right now. It's special.
Which is crazy to say because Tom Brady, gone.
Right.
We were seeing Aaron Rodgers fall down a little bit. He's approaching 40. Guys like Russell Wilson and the end of their career. And
Definitely.
so like all these, Drew Brees recently retired.
Yeah.
Phillip Rivers out. Matt Ryan.
Right. I guess
the NFL can produce more stars at the quarterback position.
Well, yeah, and it's refreshing, it's cool, and yeah, these are the names we got to get used to here for the next 6 to 10 years.
We got breaking news about one of your top 3 quarterbacks. We need the alert. Josh Allen. He's on the cover of Madden 24.
That's awesome.
He goes, a childhood dream come true. Madden 24.
That looks like a fake photo. That looks like a photo that's not. I don't think he really is in the stands of a real. I think that's a photo shoot. I don't think that's real.
Oh,
right?
You think it was
Everything's just a little too perfect. Nobody's drunk. I don't see one beer. That's not a Buffalo fan.
That's true.
That's not a Buffalo stadium. That can't be, right? Just a little. The eye paints are too perfect from fans. Jersey's clean. He doesn't even look sweaty.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
I mean, he is that good that he doesn't have to sweat for a drive down the field. But come on. I mean, that looks staged. But either way, good for him. I mean, come on. You and I both know. Everybody that's involved in football, this is one of the 5 best players in the sport. He's special. He really is, and good for him to be on the Madden cover there. It's something we all dream of as football players.
So while we got a couple extra minutes here, let's get a couple of the homies questions. And we'll go with Matt Bostic, 94. Given that there is such a gap between the top 3 quarterbacks, Mahomes, Burrow, and Allen, and the rest of the league, do you think there will be a switch in the emphasis in the draft to focus on system rather than talent in order to compete?
Yeah, and so let me just make sure I'm reading that right. He's just
so is this like you're not
going to
have
not going to try to
these...
look for the guy. So yeah, I think you're seeing that. I think we're seeing that. We talked about it in weeks past with like the 49ers and the Brock Purdy effect. I think that's a little bit of like what Washington and Atlanta are doing. Going, there's none that those 3 guys aren't out there, so we got to make the rest of the things really damn good, right? And we'll bring him along and make it work and do that.
Yep.
And there's plenty of times in history where that's happened and teams have won Super Bowls, right? And you can get into Phil Simms. We can get into Tom Brady. It's there along those lines. And then maybe they can grow into something from there. Russell Wilson, I'll throw in that book. They didn't throw him out there and go, throw it 40 times a game and carry the team, right? They went, we're going to play defense, we're going to run the ball. You make a play every now and then it grew into, now Russell Wilson's a superstar, and I think teams are going to start to look that way a little bit more.
Surprise, surprise! Your ranking of Jalen Hurts had a lot of reaction on Twitter.
No,
right? So. Amused to Death 44 says, you guys really think if every team had to choose their quarterback between Lamar and Hurts, right now most would choose Lamar? You're token too much, Chris. Not sure what Ahmed's excuse is.
Well, then if I'm token, then you're snorting. I don't know what you're doing because everybody would take Lamar. Everybody. What is it that Jalen does better than Lamar? Plays on the Eagles? That's the only thing. Come on. I don't agree with that. I don't. Again, what I would say here too, all right? If you look Lamar on the Eagles in that Super Bowl, the Chiefs couldn't play that defense that they played. Lamar would have thrown for 500 yards in that game. Sorry. Just deal with it.
I don't think I should read any more of these. I feel like we're just going to get you fired up. But Jowl Spire Jr. says, how can you put that Super Bowl loss on Jalen? Watch the tape. He wants you to watch the tape.
Yeah.
That's all you've been doing for the past several months is watching the tape. He goes, he balled out in the second half. The defense lost the game, as did that atrocious field. Most sacks in the league and couldn't get a single sack in the Super Bowl.
Hey, yep. So, all right.
And I know that a positive.
Well, it's all right. No, it's cool. It's good. Like, listen, first off, he did great. He played really well. Do I think he balled out in the second half? Not exactly. And here's the first thing I want to say. I'm sorry, I got off track here.
Yes.
At no point in that matchup did we ever think leading up to it, if you were listening to Chris Simms on Unbuttoned or a PFT with Florio, did I think that Eagles defense was going to shut down Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs? That was never did I go, oh man, that's the part of the matchup that the Chiefs are in trouble with. The greatest quarterback maybe we've ever seen with that offense, that was going to be the problem. The mismatch to be had in the game and in the matchup was that the Eagles offense should have gone down the field and scored every time against the Chiefs. That was where the biggest advantage in the game was to be had, right? Not that he played bad, but he did not take advantage of all that's there to be had. And the tape, what I want to say is, I don't know if you know exactly what you're looking at in the tape. Again, you couldn't play those defenses against some of the other quarterbacks that were in the top 6. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. Let alone, yes, other quarterbacks would definitely be vilified if they were on one of the best teams we've seen in the last 10 to 12 years and they had a 10-point lead and they couldn't score touchdowns in the second half with the unit that was better than the other unit on the field. I'm sorry. And I know that hurts. But again, too, the Eagles thought the same thing going into last year. That's why they tried to trade for Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson and everybody else in the world. They weren't sure either. It's all going in the right direction. He's doing great. You're crazy if you think he's one of the 5 or 6 best quarterbacks in football yet. He's not there. I'm sorry.
I think that's why this year is going to be really interesting with him because there were a lot of people, like you said, the Eagles themselves who did not believe that Jalen Hurts could do what he did last year.
Right.
And he did it. He did it on a good team, but he did it. And so it's going to be really interesting to see if he can take another step forward this year.
Let's go. We got 2 more Hurts questions.
No, I just want to do one more.
Well, we got 2.
You wanted to do both of them? All right. Pete goes, let's clear some stuff up.
Yeah, because it's not
we've
not
gotten
fair.
them riled.
it's not fair how some of the people take something I say and they run with it, and I go, you're wrong with what you're saying. You didn't listen to what I said.
Gold Standard 17 is running with something right now, too.
Yeah, sure.
He goes, didn't you say that Daniel Jones was better than Jalen Hurts like 4 months ago?
No, I did not. Actually, during the playoffs, I just said he's a pure passer, right? And I would put ahead Hurts in that department. I also said that I think if Jones was the quarterback of the Eagles, that, yeah, I think they could still be in the Super Bowl. That's all I said, but never said he was better. Never. Not any point. As a pure passer, I'm 3rd and 8, and there's 4 guys to throw to. I'd rather have Daniel Jones. I'm not saying I'd rather have him as a quarterback. Don't put words in my mouth. Don't find reasons to hate me. All right? Listen to what I say.
There's enough out there already. You don't need to search for them. But yeah, I mean, but I don't think that's and the fact is, I'll even go farther than you. It's like Daniel Jones is a pretty good runner too. Like Daniel Jones can do a lot of things really well, and that's why he's 11 in your ranking.
I know.
There's not that much separating the two quarterbacks.
Yeah,
the team separates the quarterback.
Exactly. I think that's where people get a little lost in this conversation. We have this, a lot.
Okay, and the last one from Gorlick92. How can you say that Jalen Hurts is the ultimate gamer? Kyler Murray would wreck him in Call of Duty. That probably is a pretty good point.
Way to end it on a positive note there, Gorlick92. Way to bring us back to some fun and some laughs there.
I like it.
All right, well done.
Well, you know what? This is enjoyable for me.
Yeah.
To ride shotgun when you go through all these quarterbacks, because it's like you take another look at these quarterbacks, the most important position in all of sports, I think, and it also gave us a chance to talk about the teams and what they got going forward, and so it's a good way to put the punctuation on our podcast here. We're going to take a break. Not yet, but coming up here in a couple weeks.
Yeah, we got a little more. Hey, and again, I'm not saying I'm God here. I'm not saying whatever I write is written in stone. I'm a guy that loves this. I watch it. I study it. I've been taught by people. I'm trying to give you some nuance and some thoughts to bring it to everybody's attention and digest it and have good conversation around it. So that's all I'm saying there. But my top 4 is undeniable, so eat that, okay? That's for sure.
Yeah, there's no arguing. There's no arguing with that. Well done, Chris.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thanks for sticking up for me on social media, on the podcast. Always. Thanks for driving the ship. That's it. We do have a fun week coming up next week.
We do.
We got a few fun exercises. Ahmed had a few good ideas that we're going to break out. We think the homies will enjoy it. But you know where to find us. Subscribe, rate, and review. And again, not that this conversation's done here just because we're done with the top 40. If you got more questions and things you want me to unpack and dissect on Monday's podcast about the top 40, you know where to find us. All right, so everybody be good. Enjoy the weekend out there. If you're in the Northeast, make sure you wear your smoke gas mask outside because we can't see the trees across the parking lot right now. There's so much smoke in the air.
It was supposed to be gone by today.
Yeah, apparently the fire didn't stop yet. I don't really know. So Captain Planet is disappointed.
Yep.
All right. But Patrick Mahomes, Captain Football, should not be disappointed. Ahmed, be good. See you Monday. Clap it up. Yo, thanks for watching, homies. It's the off season, but there's no off season for us here at Unbuttoned. Me, Ahmed Fareed, we're going to hit all the stories. So hit subscribe for us, okay? We got a ton coming up. My draft prospect rankings, my Simms top 40 quarterback countdown, and videos of me and NFL QBs playing catch and talking about their development and mechanics. Again, thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe. Peace out, homies. See you soon.